Update. My deceased wife's parents are trying to take my children. Original story. I was married to Kate for almost 16 years, together nearly 20. She was the absolute light of my life, at the center of my world, and her death has been devastating to both me and our 3 children, 17 female, 14 male, 10 male. Our family was very close, and her death was unexpected. We are estranged from Kate's parents. She was already no contact with them when we first met, and we continued keeping no contact with them. They attempted pretty often to get in contact with us, and Kate and I always shut it down immediately. We were in no contact with them because they were incredibly horrible to Kate growing up. They don't accept responsibility for their actions. They say they were just confused kids and didn't mean for anything serious to happen to Kate. But something serious did happen to Kate. Kate suffered from seizures from a traumatic brain injury she got at her mother's hands, and it was a seizure that killed my wife 3 weeks ago. So I rest the blame for my wife's death squarely on her parents' shoulders. Since she passed away, her parents have begun harassing me, saying that they're owed a relationship with their grandchildren. I say I don't owe them crap, and continue to deny them requests, throw away the letters, donate the gifts, just like Kate had always done. Now, I've been sent a letter that they're suing for grandparents' rights. I am terrified. I'm terrified that my in-laws are going to get their hands on my children and take them away from me in the wake of the traumatic death of their mother. Am I doing the right thing by keeping distance from her parents? I've turned everything over to the lawyer, but I'm wondering if this is the right thing to do. All 3 kids are in therapy even before their mother's death. The older 2 kids know some details of the relationship between Kate and her parents, but not the entire story. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Yes, you are doing the right thing. Also, get a lawyer. They shouldn't be able to take them actually. They may have a Hail Mary chance though. Some states have a grandparents' rights laws for visitation, sadly for situations similar to this. The laws are for, in the event of a parent's death, the surviving parent going AWOL and depriving the deceased parent's family/grandparents with access to the children. In theory, the situation is similar to Opie's case, except the deceased parent was no contact before their death, and clearly didn't want the grandparents near their family. Couldn't imagine a court granting them, but crap, if they get the right judge on the right day? I think they need to have an established relationship with the kids to qualify though. And only listen to what your lawyer says, because you owe them nothing and their feelings aren't a concern. I doubt they would advise you to start contact. Also r/legal advice. Lawyer here. They won't be able to take rights away from him. Unless OP is lying, most, if not all states, prioritize bio-parents' rights over grandparents, even when bio-parent is in jail or substance dependent. The worst that can happen is visitation, but they have not had continuous contact with these children prior to his wife's untimely and devastating death. So, I don't know how they'll even get visitation. OP, it's clear you're in a lot of pain and stressed out, but they really don't have a leg to stand on. Stand your ground. They have no claim to these children. In most states, grandparents' rights are set up for if there is a messy relationship and one parent dies, the other parent cannot keep the children away from that side of the family, which is not what's happened from your description. Based on the history as well, even for visitation she has no case, depending on your location. She hasn't had a relationship with them ever, so there would be a loss of relationship now that your wife is deceased. But have a very serious talk with your kids about this. Older kids get more info obviously, since grandparents could reach out to them directly to manipulate their way into a relationship. And now for the update. A year ago, I came asking advice as my deceased wife's parents were trying to take custody of my 3 children. I want to thank everyone for the advice they gave us. Someone commented about an FU binder, and that came in so handy to fight against these horrific people. It was a really long 9-month battle. I got to know the CPS officers and our night shift police officers on a first-name basis. They reported me for mistreating my children, my dogs, even for breaking into my neighbor's house. In the heat of it, I gathered my kids with our family therapist and asked if they wanted to move. Our house had so many good memories, but also one big terrible memory. I don't like to think of it as running away or hiding, but as the freshest slate we could manage. We're in an entirely different state now, with no contact orders in place to protect us in the future. We miss Kate more than words could ever convey, but we're all together still, and that's the most important part. Good thing you were able to get past them. They're terrible human beings by doing all these things to you and your kids. They alienated themselves from their grandkids by what they've done to them. All the best. I often wonder how evil people exist. Like, I can't fathom sitting around lying just to lie. Do they believe this ugliness? I'm so glad you got away from these awful demons posing as people. Sending light. You would be so surprised what people will do when someone dies. Their evil sides are quickly revealed. My uncle drank himself to death, and my aunt found him. She stole the rings off his hands and all the money in his wallets before calling my dad and the cops. People can be worse when someone dies. Wow, what a horrific story. I'm a dad who ended up with a custody away from a very troubled mother, so this story resonated with me as I fought long and hard to keep custody. I've had custody for 16 years, and every challenge has been thrown out, but I always fear that one whacked out judge on a bad day, so I can totally relate to the fear. I'm so glad to hear how this has worked out. I wish you the best. Just wanted to post a little empathetic ear. As sad as your story is, you've done the right thing. Thanks for posting, Opie. I'm glad you're now moving on. I feel terrible for contacting you, and I'm just wondering if you can provide any tips, looking back at what has helped you rebuild. Unfortunately, I have a similar story, albeit a little different. My sister is in her very late stages of her life after fighting cancer for 8 years. It has been an emotional roller coaster during this time, and whilst we knew this day was coming, it's cutting a lot harder than we first thought. To top things off, my sister's husband, my brother-in-law, could not take this pain and ended his life in January of this year. Despite what he did, and knowing my sister doesn't have long days, like your kids, she and him leave behind 3 children. So literally as I type, I write to you grieving for my sister. But I have to now prepare to take on guardianship of her 3 children too. They are twins 16 years old and a 10 years old. And by the month's end, they'll have lost both parents. My immediate family is very close. Financially, we are okay too. But I have 3 kids falling into my guardianship having going through grief that no one deserves. I'm not really sure what to do. Everything is falling into place, and I'm terribly sorry for making this about me, especially when you've already gone through hell and back. Next story. How do I start a relationship with my nieces and nephew when their father was responsible for my brother's passing? One of my employees mentioned that this may be a good place to get some advice for my current dilemma. I'm 46 male and 4 kids. My older brother Pete, 48 male I think, who I no longer have any contact with, my younger brother Jake, who is no longer with us, and my youngest sister Kathy, 44 female. Recently, Pete's children, 2 girls and 1 boy, all in their late teens and early 20s, reached out to me and expressed a desire to have a relationship. I have 0 contact with their father, and swore that I would beat him black and blue if I ever saw him again. A little background. My oldest brother Pete was always the golden child. No matter what he did, my parents always had an excuse for why it was not his fault. Bad grade? Teacher had it out for him. Cheating in every single one of his relationships. Good thing you did it to her before she did it to you. That one was my personal favorite. He also used to torment Jake and I constantly when we were smaller than him. Until in high school, when I hit a growth spurt and sprung up to about 6'4" and 230 pounds worth of muscle. After that, I became the typical jock type. Played football, partied, bunch of friends, etc. Well, my younger brother Jake didn't get as lucky, and stayed pretty small and scrawny throughout high school and college, only getting up to about 5'8", and didn't have a super active social life. Despite the difference in our schooling experience, I was always very protective of Jake, especially since we were always having to put up with Pete's crap, which stopped once he realized I could pound him into the ground and not break a sweat, as he was also a lot smaller than me at only 5'10". Not much to say about Kathy. She was a great younger sister, and Pete didn't dare mess with her or he would incur the wrath of our mother. So in the late 90s, Jake met his first real girlfriend, Amy, and was over the moon about her. He spent every spare moment with her, and when he wasn't with her, he would do nothing but gush about her. I had never seen him so happy. Well, one day he comes to us, all smiles, and announces that Amy is pregnant and they are expecting. The mood quickly turned, however, when a week later it came out that Amy had been cheating on Jake for the duration of their relationship with our older brother Pete. This broke my brother. And of course, Pete, being the golden turd that he is, didn't even get a disappointed glance from our parents. To this day, I've never seen someone look so broken as Jake had looked the last time I saw him. I believe his heartache was only compounded by the fact that my parents basically told him to get over it and be happy for our brother. Well, about a week after this revelation came to light, he ended himself. I had never been so sad and angry at the same time in my entire life. Sad that I would never see my brother again, and the pure rage of knowing that this was my brother and parents' fault. During the funeral, Pete walked in with Amy and I saw red. Thankfully, I had other family there to stop me from doing anything stupid, but I told Pete that if I ever saw him again, I would kill him. Shortly after that, I cut contact with 90% of my family, with the exception of Kathy and a cousin I had always been close with, because everyone except them wanted to make excuses for my parents and Pete. Now fast forward to present. I never had any kids, and truth be told, I never wanted any. I much prefer the role of the fun uncle. Kathy met a great guy and had 2 daughters, who I absolutely adore. Pete had 2 more kids with Amy before cheating on her. Shocker. And splitting, and I've never met any of them. My parents have tried to make contact a handful of times, but I always told them to kick rocks. So last week, I'm chatting with Kathy's daughters, 19 and 17, and they mentioned that their cousins have wanted to meet me for a long time, and were hoping I would be willing to meet them as well. I don't believe they know everything that transpired between their dad and I, but I would be lying if I said I never had any desire to meet them. So everyone, I'm hoping to crowdsource any ideas/suggestions on how I begin/maintain a relationship with Pete's kids, while also keeping him and Amy out of my life. Any suggestions are welcome. Edit. One commenter just brought up a good point that kind of changes my question. The reason I wanted to meet with them soon is because they are all back in town at once from college due to COVID. But someone gave me the idea that maybe meeting them one at a time once they return to their college campuses/old living arrangements is the better option. Thoughts? I've had multiple people ask me why Kathy still talks with the people I cut contact with, so I'll just copy-paste one of my replies here. Even though my sister was just as crushed about Jake's death as I was and was angry for a long time, she and her then boyfriend, future husband, hit a financial rough patch after graduating college, and were forced to move in with our parents. Due to unrelated drama at the time, they couldn't stay with me. So my sister stayed with them for several years, and over that time their relationship improved. And even though I wasn't thrilled at the time, I understood. She still doesn't really have a relationship with Pete, but is cordial if they meet. I don't blame her, because our parents did a lot for her, and daughters love their cousins, so I didn't want to put her in that kind of position of choosing. Now for the advice. Did you already ask Kathy's daughters if their cousins know the truth? Since it is very important for you, then maybe Kathy's daughters could help you figure it out, as they seem to be in a good relationship with them. They've told me that they haven't mentioned anything to them, but said it was clear that they were at least vaguely aware. Like they know we are estranged regarding our brother's death, but not sure if they have the details. Make it a prerequisite that they be told the truth about their parents for you to have any relationship with them. I think the situation needs to be handled with care. I don't think there's any harm in meeting them, but you do need to be clear with them that you have no intention of seeing or interacting with their father. From your earlier comment, it sounds like the kids are all adults. But since they're still living with their father, it might be best to hold off on the specifics of why you won't talk to their dad until they're a bit more independent. Your brother definitely sounds like the type that would blame you for turning his kids against him, and knowing the truth could make their lives more difficult while they're still under his roof. Those were my thoughts as well. I'm sure one of their first questions for me is going to be why their father and I don't speak, and given their living situation, I'm not sure if it would be good for them to know that information while still under his roof. If they ask, just tell them that you're not comfortable discussing it with them yet, and that when you are, you'll let them know. Don't have a relationship with those kids unless it's going to be based on honesty. Your older brother is, indeed, largely responsible for the needless death of your younger brother. I have no words for your parents. Your estranged brother's children played no role in your brother's death, so relationship with them to a point becomes possible. However, I don't know how you can have a relationship with them unless they know the truth. It's time for your older brother and your parents to own their dishonesty and dysfunction. I'm so sorry for your heartache, Hirobi. Last story is titled, My 19 male, half-sister 17 female, isn't happy my father won't sponsor her college. My half-sister is 2 years younger than me. She is a rising senior and will be entering college in fall 2022. My half-sister's parents are essentially broke. This is because my mother is very ill, and a lot of their expenses go towards her treatment. My half-sister's dad pays for all her medical bills, and mine does not. My mom left my dad while she was pregnant with me, and soon fell in love with half-sister's dad. While the timing is close, there was no cheating. My dad didn't pay for my mom because he didn't care about her anymore. I don't think it was wrong for that, and he got majority custody when she fell ill. My dad is rich, and he is paying for my education. My sister and dad are pretty close because he babysat her a lot. She asked him if he'd pay for her college, and he said no. She got really upset because she got into a decent school but cost a fair amount of money. The money wouldn't even dent my dad's bank, but he refused because he never saw her as his responsibility. Now my half-sister wants me to convince my dad to help her pay for college. What the hell is this post? If your ex who left you 20 years ago has another kid with someone else, you're not responsible for paying for them to go to college. At all. People are weird AF. More like some Americans are entitled AF. What did I just read? His responsibilities to his child, you, just like all parents. Your sister's parents are responsible for her. Sorry, someone had to say that. It's crazy how some of the comments think the dad should help. He's not an ATM. Exactly. He's nice to her, which is good enough considering what her mom did. It sucks, she'll have to work through to get uni, but if she chooses an in-state school, it won't be that bad, honestly. It's one thing to help out your ex and make sure your child has a good relationship with her half-siblings. It's quite another to pay for a child's college education that isn't yours. Your half-sister is not being realistic. Even though it would not make a dent in your dad's financial situation, he's not her dad. If her parents can't afford to send her to college, there are grants, scholarships, and loans. She needs to talk to her school counselor and see what kind of help she can get.
Am I the a-hole for not telling my girlfriend about my savings? Original post. I, 20 male, have been working since I was 14. I grew up very poor and watched my dad work 2 jobs to make ends meet. My first job was at Publix, working 15 to 20, maybe 25 hours a week, but my dad made sure I saved all my money unless I wanted a new video game or a pair of shoes, but he still wouldn't let me splurge like I wanted. He paid for all my food and phone bill until he passed away when I was 16. I started working in a restaurant and the manager gave me a lot of hours. I'd clock in at 9 a.m. as a prep cook and then clock in at 4 p.m. as a busser. I wouldn't clock out until like 11 to 12 p.m. I was making at least $800 a week during the summer as a 16-year-old. It was great. I saved up about $3,000 that whole summer. Then when I'd leave school, I'd clock in from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. and work the rest of my shift under the table. I saved up at least $5,000 through the whole school year. I was always very frugal with money and never cared for the nicer clothes. I still dressed nice, but no desire to wear designer clothes. Well, now that I work full-time for the past 2 to 3 years, I have roughly $30,000, more or less. I started dating my girlfriend 2 years ago, and I always say I'm broke when I have less than $500 in my checking account. I'm not necessarily saving up for anything because I live with my sister and she doesn't make me pay any bills, except for the light bills / my phone plan and the stuff that I want. My girlfriend doesn't have as good as money management as I do. Whenever she gets sad, she likes to retail therapy. I've never understood why, but her parents spoiled her growing up, so I figured that plays a part. But oh well, everyone has their own ways of dealing with the sadness, and that's hers. Well, she was asking if I could send her like $200 to $300 for something, won't disclose what, and I told her to send it to herself through my bank. I didn't think she'd go through my whole bank app and click on my savings, but she saw I had $2,500 in my checking and went to my savings. She came to me and showed me my phone and was like, "We're rich. You must have been selling drugs or something, haha." I did find it funny, but I tried to tell her easy that we're not spending that. And she then thought about it and looked the transactions over the years and added it all up and was like, "You never mentioned anything about this account." I said, "Because that money isn't wealth. It's a savings in case anything bad happens." Now, I will say I'm not stingy with money. I just don't spend money on things I don't need. I still take my girlfriend out to eat every week and buy her flowers. I make sure she feels her worth, which is more than that money I have saved. We just look at money differently. If anything were to ever happen to her, I'd obviously care for her and take money out of that account for her. But she started talking about how she doesn't need to work if I have that type of money. I explained that money isn't wealth once again, and $30,000 can be gone in the blink of an eye. She wasn't having it. I told her we can start a savings account together that will strictly be for trips, activities, etc. She said I already have the money for that. I responded, "This is why I didn't mention the money to you, because you'd want to spend it all in a matter of a month." She broke down crying, saying I didn't trust her and I don't love her. I plan on marrying this woman and love her to death, but I don't want to jeopardize something I worked years on to save and be comfortable financially. I don't use credit cards or anything yet, and I am in no debt. I do see where she's coming from, and I could see where I'm in the wrong by not disclosing this with her, but I knew I'd have to start from ground zero again. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I'll be honest, OP. She's still pretty immature and clearly has no concept of the value of money. I know you say you want to marry this girl, but bro, you are 20 years old. There's a freaking big world out there to explore. If this is her stance on money and she refuses to educate herself on the value of money, I wouldn't be sticking around and letting her leech her hard work away. 30,000 is not a lot of money, and you are certainly not rich. Don't know where you live, but in my city, that would only be an 8-month cushion if tragedy strikes. If you are both still living at home, try sitting down with her and draw up a budget for what it would cost to live in your own place together. Get some help, as there are expenses you don't even know about at this point. Just see how far your savings would really go. Good on you for being so great with your money so far. Keep it up. I was OP. At 20 years old, tragedy did strike. I became permanently disabled. The savings I had worked so hard for went to pay off my car and some of the medical bills that never stopped accumulating. I'm now 37 and I'll never have significant savings again because I'll never go more than a couple of months without having major surgery. OP, you never know what might happen. Hopefully nothing like what happened to me. Very few people get sick like this. But a major accident, a house fire, you just never know. Even my dog's surgery cost thousands of dollars, but it saved his life. That money is a safety net that gives you the ability to choose what to do in a horrible situation. Will you save your dog or put him down? Without the money, you have to put him down. When you're in an accident, will you buy a new car or will you struggle with public transportation for a while? If you get laid off, will you take the first job you're offered or wait for something that actually seems like a good fit? That money is the cushion that allows you to choose your next move carefully, instead of being forced into whatever decision is cheapest. Make no mistake, eventually something bad happens to everyone. Obviously, everyone hopes it will be a minor bad thing. But the more prepared you can be, the easier it is to bounce back. Not the a-hole. Never had a more red flag than "we are rich." No, honey, that's nowhere near rich, and not your money whatsoever. From her immaturity, she's legal, right? Oh yes, she's 20 and I'm 20. She just gets everything she wants from her parents and never really worked for anything really. While me, on the other hand, has had to work for everything I want/need. If she thinks $30,000 is rich, she doesn't understand money, and clearly still a child, not an adult. $30K is a down payment for a $150,000 house, which in most markets is literally a hole in the ground. That won't even buy you a new car in cash. It's awesome you have it saved, and it's stupendous for someone your age, but you ain't rich. I would put a good chunk into some investments, maybe even get a financial advisor that could get your money working for you. The lack of money experience isn't surprising, almost to be expected. He is way more financially mature than 99% of 20 years old in the US. The red flag is a girlfriend immediately laying claim to half a dude's money, when not a dime of it is hers. But she isn't laying claim to half of it. She suggested that she no longer needs to work, not that she and OP can now retire together. In her mind, that money's all hers. Edit/mini update. People commenting saying I should offer rent to my sister because of the money I have saved up. I agree, but she won't let me pay rent. Her and husband are well off due to him being a VP at a wedding company with government contracts, and my sister is retired military working as a chairwoman of her charity. They don't want me to pay rent and focus on my future. Also, to the comments questioning why I've only 30K saved up, I pay for most of my big purchases outright, as I don't like acquiring debt. On a different note, I will be taking my girlfriend out to eat on Saturday per her request, as she wants to talk about everything that transpired, so we'll update most likely on Sunday or Monday. Thank you everyone for your advice. It's greatly appreciated, and I will be taking it all into consideration. Now for the full update. Good morning to all you lovely gents and ladies. I'm up early this morning because it is a stressful night and I couldn't get comfortable to save my life. My girlfriend and I decided that we're going to take a break. I was trying to not let the outside influences influence me, but I noticed she ordered a lot more food than she usually does, and didn't even take a bite of some of it. Her excuse was, "You're fine. It was only $150 for both of us." That was my eye-opener. So I paid, with a generous tip, but I saw a lot of comments saying she already spent that money in her head, or she will drain it slowly but surely until it's all gone. I hate that money was the reason for us breaking up, but a lot of people were saying facts I couldn't ignore. Her whole attitude changed with me and felt like she was Elon Musk's wife. I told her at the table after we ate, "I still love you and will always care about you, but you need to grow up a little bit before we get back together." She started crying and left. I then received messages from her mother asking if I'm seeing somebody else, because this is out of the blue for someone like me. I don't know if she's saying I shouldn't be able to leave her daughter rather than her daughter is supposed to leave me, but I didn't even respond back. I don't care for the drama, nor for the arguing which is happening with my girlfriend. Sorry, ex-girlfriend. I was told I'm just like my dad, a bum, a sorry loser, etc. I could keep going, lol. I'm none of those things. I might be a little bit interesting, but I haven't even really responded to my ex with anything but "yes ma'am" or "you're right." I don't feel like I'm the bad guy because I'm not fighting for a relationship that is now seen as dollar signs. But to everyone who said I was the a-hole, I see where you're coming from, and I learned to be more transparent about not being broke rather than not spending that money. I just think it's rude to say, "I have the money, I just don't want to spend it." I'll think of ways to say that without saying that. Now, to everyone who said I should give my sister rent money, I swear I'm not selfish and just being greedy with my money. Whenever her kids and I go to Walmart, I tend to always get them a toy. Last week I bought them a Lego set. Probably not a good idea because they're 1 and 3 years old, but hey, as long as they're having fun and don't swallow them, we're good. But I buy everyone things. Even if they're not the most expensive, they're all sentimental. I just bought my brother-in-law and I matching Team USA basketball jerseys because we're both hyped for the Olympics. They just don't want me to pay rent, and I'm not going to argue with them about that, but I still buy them stuff as well to make up for that. To everyone who said leave her, y'all were right. I hate to say it, but money is all some can see when they have seen it. She was blinded by a make-believe life of luxury I don't have to offer. I'm not saying she's a gold digger or a bad person, just immature and young. I'm also going to take the advice of putting it in a different account I can earn interest on to keep up with inflation. I thank everyone for their advice and prayers. It was much needed, and I hope to everyone who has a nice penny saved up to keep grinding and scratching your way to the top. I hope to see y'all there one day. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not trusting my husband after he depleted our savings to pay for his dog's surgery? My mother-in-law asked my husband a year and a half ago to watch over her dog for her when she went to surgery and rehab following surgery. She's a healer. I apparently didn't have any say in it because I didn't even know until the dog was at my house. I had a problem with this from the beginning. The dog was completely untrained. There were multiple times that the dog would jump up on our table and steal food out of the kids' plates and growl at you when you corrected her. She went after my cats multiple times. She poops in the house constantly, no matter how often she was outside. She would do zoomies around the yard for easily 40 minutes, come inside and immediately squat to poop. And she nipped me and my husband's faces. Not the kids, oddly enough. Hard enough to draw blood to. If he pulled away before she got you, you could hear her teeth smashing against each other. I didn't want the dog and expressed it hundreds of times. But he refused to get rid of her because of his mother, despite his mother having been out of rehab for over a month at that point. Well, his mom told us 3 months ago that she would be taking this dog back in April. But 2 weeks ago, she comes to our house and, surprise, surprise, she has a new dog. She told us, well, you've had her for so long that I figured you could just keep her. I just found out I was pregnant a month prior to this. I told my husband there was no way we were keeping this dog. I never even wanted a dog here. He eventually said okay, and he found a nice couple who owned a giant farm to take her for an overnight to see if it was a good fit 3 days ago. We got a call the very next morning saying that the dog was hit by a car. He rushed us to go get her and bring her to the emergency vet. She needed amputation, surgery on her front paw, surgery on her pelvis, metal plates put in, etc., etc. The total for the surgeries was almost $13,000. They told us prior to doing any of the work that they had a healer rescue who was willing to take her if we couldn't afford the surgeries. I go back out to the car at this point because I was feeling nauseous from not eating anything and being pregnant. He comes out like a half hour later and tells me that it paid $700 to $800 towards the cost, our savings, and open an animal care credit card to cover the rest, which has 26% interest if you don't pay the cost back in full in 6 months. Now he's saying he can't get rid of her because she has been through too much and she's my friend. I'm so wildly repulsed by this that I can't even look at him the same anymore. This is a divorce territory to me. All of our savings are now gone, and we are going to be looking at that because of this 26% interest credit card he opened. And now he expects me to deal with carrying the dog around and squatting around the yard for her to go to the bathroom when I already have hypertension from pregnancy and I have been deemed high risk. I told him I don't think I can stay with him after this. I do not trust him at all anymore. There were options. They had a healer rescue willing to take the dog and cover the cost. But he instead threw us into debt over a dog that he told me he was getting rid of and I'm all set. He said I'm an a-hole for not seeing his point on this. I do see his point. He loves the dog obviously. But we are pregnant. And he just depleted our savings over a dog that bites faces. And I don't think I want to be with him anymore. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm a dog lover, but this dog seems to be putting you and your kids at risk. I'm wondering if he didn't ask his mother for the dog and used the guise of, we're taking care of it while she's recovering. Not the a-hole, also a dog lover, which is why when I moved in with my partner, we had an adult conversation about getting one, which breed fit our lifestyle and timing for us to be in the right place in life to properly care for one. I cannot imagine just coming home one day with an animal and telling my partner just deal with it, especially when you have young children in the home. That would have been divorce territory. Using the savings and opening the credit card without even discussing it is beyond. I'm a dog and cat lover too, but if a grown animal is a biter and food aggressive and is impossible to house train, out he goes. I'd take him to a no-kill animal shelter and let them deal with him. But depleting the savings account and going into debt over a sick or injured dog where there are alternatives is insane. One has bills, a mortgage I assume, and growing kids. This man is a child when it comes to adult decisions. If they have college accounts for the kids, I see him depleting them on a whim. He is an a-hole. It would be kinder to euthanize an animal that is that badly hurt, and he certainly had no right to use your savings and take on that without consulting you. Plenty of reasons to divorce him. And if it was fixable and that rescue wanted to take on the costs, then freaking let them deal with it. I love dogs. My girl is my baby. But barring some crazy exception like me trying to break up a dog fight with my hands or something where she's terrified / in pain and trying to protect herself, if she bit me, she'd be euthanized. I could not, in good faith, pass her along to another home knowing she's capable of that. If I rehomed her and even years later found out she did someone serious harm, I'd never be able to forgive myself. I really resent being lied to and find it unforgivable when someone who loves me does it. Your husband is lied to, deceived, and disregarded you. For me, he's basically looked you in your face and said, I don't care about you and you don't matter. 1. He agreed to take on the dog's care without ever consulting you. 2. He didn't return the dog when he said he would. 3. He's ignored and disregarded how you feel / what you want at every step. 4. He spent every dime of your joint savings without a word to you and took on an additional $5,000 to $6,000 debt at 26% without even a thought of you. How hard would it have been to say 1 sec and walk out to the car to discuss? In your shoes, he'd have told me everything I need to know.
Update. My grandmother tried to steal my apartment and make me go back to my parents so she could punish me. I'm 29 and had been dealing with this for some time, but recently this became ridiculous. My grandmother is the most special person I ever knew. And with special, I mean one of the most frustrating, entitled, narcissistic, condescending witch on earth. She believes that she's the matriarch of the family, the highest authority that we all must obey, and for that, she had done a lot of things to all the family members over the years. And recently, I became her main target. A couple months ago, she organized a family meeting on her house. Believing it was just a family meal, we all went. And when everyone was there, she revealed her true intentions. It was a trap. Apparently, someone told my grandmother that I was dating a girl, my girlfriend, and basically she exposed me to all the family. At a time, I haven't even told my parents about it yet. The following 30 minutes were a non-stop humiliation in front of my family, saying how a failure I was, a shame to the family, a sinner, and how embarrassed she was that all her church's friends knew I was a shameless pervert. When I couldn't take her insults anymore, I got up from my chair, just to be slapped in the face by her for disrespecting her. After seeing that, the rest of my family finally intervened, got her away from me before she tried pulling my hair. The following weeks, she was nothing more than a constant headache. Endless calls and text messages telling me such beautiful things as that I will burn for my sins, that I was a disgrace, that I should stop fooling around and correct my life. She even lectured my parents, demanding that they correct me, to make me quit my job and find a husband, because that was the right thing to do and what I should be doing. Also, she took every chance she got to say how evil and selfish I was for ruining her good image. Last Saturday, she outdid herself. While I was in my apartment, there was a knock on the door, and when I opened it, I saw that it was her. By that point, I was no longer trying to hide my displeasure from her, and I just said, it's you. What do you want? Without being invited to come in, she slipped into my house, started looking around the place with an obvious look of disgust and disapproval on her face, and then turned to see me with that look of superiority, as if she were doing me a favor by being there. She told me that she had already given me more than enough time to reconsider and correct my life, so she was there so that I could apologize to her. I just laughed sarcastically and told her that she was crazy and that she could go now. She then started lecturing me with the same speech again, but I didn't take it. I interrupted her and let out all the things I've wanted to tell her for a long time. That she was a stupid old witch, that she was not an authority figure to anyone, that her presence alone ruins our day, that nobody can stand her, that she was such a horrible and suffocating grandmother and mother, that she should not make it strange that none of her children love her or visit her unless she forces them to. I knew I had hurt her by the way she tensed her face and how she tried to hold back her tears. It was then that she said, "Enough. I can see that you don't understand a good way, so I will have to correct you in the old way. Give me the keys to this place. You will return to your parents and you will be grounded until you learn to obey and do what I ordered." I still had the keys in my hand, to which she extends hers as if waiting for me to give them to her. I laughed. I laughed out loud. This was too ridiculous that I couldn't take it seriously. And apparently that made her so mad that she lunged at me, trying to grab my keys. We struggled. There were screams, things falling out of place. The damn witch got to the point of digging her nails into my arms and biting my hands. The scandal was such that a couple of neighbors went out to see what was going on. And when my grandmother saw them, she started shouting that I was a thief and was trying to rob her house. Obviously, they didn't believe her. They were my neighbors. They knew me. They separated her from me, and when she saw that they did not believe her and that I would not obey her, she threatened me with, "Your parents will know about this," and left. Since then, she had been telling everyone how I insulted her and violently attacked her. We all know her. We all know she's a liar. She just makes everyone's lives harder. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Slapped you at 29. What are you waiting for to go no contact? This relationship needs to end. In case you are depending on her financially, your freedom and well-being not worth her money. No contact.
I don't depend on her in any way. Me, my mother, and all the family had tried no contact before, but just never worked. No contact works best when boundaries are enforced. No calls, texts, emails accepted. Trespass, non-contact, and protection orders, particularly as she has now physically attacked you twice, and then police called for every breach. A camera on the entranceway. You see her on the street, you walk the other way. Done. She will never agree with you. So there was no point explaining or trying to figure out how to play nice, because it's a twisted game of her creation, and you cannot win. Engaging in this conflict only fuels her fire, and to her, proves the point that you are not obedient and need to put firmly in your place. Press charges, get cameras, block her. I'm going to buy the cameras. I'd already blocked her number. Sadly, as she can't keep calling me, she is now calling my parents and other relatives. That, sweetheart, is not your problem. They can also block her. Thank you so much. I dealt with so much guilt and doubts about myself, and she only made everything worse in the moments when I believed I already knew who I am. Yeah, you need to call the cops and get ahead of this. She will get you charged and arrested to force you into what she wants. Call the cops and press charges. Get your neighbors to make statements. Don't leave this. Also, set up a doorbell camera. If you do nothing, then you are asking for more trouble. I'm going to buy the cameras. Knowing her, it's just a matter of time for her to show up here again. Do that, but really call the police. My husband is a senior officer and tells me all the time that people don't call until it's too late. You don't have to call and press charges, though you could. Call and ask to have a report made. That's it. Have a paper trail. Also, tell the wicked witch that Jesus don't like ugly and Grandma's hideous. Tell her the petty people of refit will meet her in hell. And now for the update. After the last post, I took some of the advice that people here told me. I went to the police and filed a report about what my grandmother did. I had some photos of the bites and nail marks and even asked one of my neighbors to come with me as a witness. But police didn't help. They said that any of that was enough proof to do something and suggested to talk and solve it. I knew police wouldn't help. But as some said here, I have now a paper trail. I bought cameras for my door. Not very expensive, but they record in a very decent quality. And they arrived just in the right moment, because 2 days later, my grandmother showed up again. This time, I didn't open the door, and that made her angry. She noticed I was home and kept knocking the door for 30 minutes. After that, she started hitting and kicking it, yelling at me to open, that as my grandmother I must obey. And of course, lots of curses. She left after the neighbors told her that they were calling the police, and I had everything recorded. That night, I sent a video to the family group chat, and this led to the next point. I went no contact with my grandmother. I decided I don't want her in my life anymore. After sending the video to the family, I told them that I was cutting all contact with her. It looked like it was something that everyone wanted to do, but they were waiting to someone to do it first, because half of the family agreed to do the same after I told them, and almost all of us will on the following days. My grandmother noticed and tried to show up at everyone's houses, but we had enough. Except for one aunt, no one opened the door. I would like to say that everything ends here and we are all living our lives, but that was not my case. My grandmother showed up at my workplace, and she started one of the messiest dramas I've ever seen. She claimed that everything was my fault, that I made a family to stop talking to her, etc. She then ordered me to take her to the boss's office because she wanted me to quit my job and to start obeying her. I just asked her to leave the building and turn my back on her. That only made her even angrier because she tried to attack me again. Some of my coworkers were able to keep her away from me until security arrived. But in those few minutes, my grandmother threatened me, saying that I would regret ruining everything, and this was disturbing. To be very careful because she knows lots of people, and she knows where I live. And it would be too sad that someone breaks into your house during the night, and even worse if he did something to you. Or maybe it wouldn't be that bad if that corrects your perverted deviation. Again, I went to the police, with witnesses and videos of the security cameras, and again they didn't help. But at least now I have enough for a restraining order. How are your police so freaking useless? I feel like a lawyer would do a lot more than a police officer in this instance. I know, and I already have a lawyer for the restraining order. Just make sure you have security cameras around your home. Crazy doesn't rest easy. Wow, just wow. I've heard of nasty fights and arguments between family members, but actually saying she knows people who could do nasty things to you? That just blows my mind. This is getting beyond entitled. This is getting to the point of outright accomplice to an assault, whether it's physical, mental, or even worse. The fact that she stated she knows people could be interpreted as her saying she could put a hit out on you. If your local police won't do anything, try going to the county, state, or federal law enforcement agencies, assuming this is somewhere in the US, which if it isn't, please forgive my assumption. But if local won't do anything, then perhaps going above their heads will be the wake-up call they need to get up off their butts and do their jobs properly. Either way, definitely get that restraining/protection order put into place ASAP. Hope it all blows over soon, and that it was just her blowing hot air. Hope everything works out for the better in the end. Stay safe. I want to say, just tell her, well, Mrs. Last Name, you're dead to me as my grandmother, so just follow the same thing. We just share the same last name, nothing more. But she said she'd put a hit out on you, so that's out the window. Does your place of work have video of the area where that monster said this stuff? You may want to see if you can have a copy for your records for in case she does make good on her threat. Then, you can at least have copies of it everywhere with letters stating, if I'm a victim of crime, look into Grand Monster. She's probably behind it. I have the video of one of the security cameras, and a coworker filmed everything on his phone too. He already sent me the video. I shared it with my girlfriend, my parents, and brother, just in case I need it. Now for the last story. My brother-in-law disrespects my wife and my son, gets scared, and cries to his parents when I correct him. So, my brother-in-law to this day still lives with my in-laws. He's in his early 30s. From what my wife's told me, and I've seen enough evidence to affirm her statements, they've spoiled him rotten his entire life. He's adopted, of the fair complexion as opposed to my wife and in-laws' melanin-rich tones, so she suspects some odd fantasizing on their part that I won't really get into, but could definitely see them participating in. He could burn water. He's that inept. Eats nothing but crap food, is horrendously overweight, doesn't have a job, and actively refuses to get one unless you're doing all the legwork for him. Gets to go to Disney and Universal parks all day, and throws a tantrum anytime he's asked to do any kind of chores, to name a few issues I have with him. He's also super creepy towards my kids, and given a history that's not really mine to explain, but you can guess, that's grounds enough for me to not want him within a mile of my family. He still demands the respect, because I'm an adult and your uncle, so you have to respect me. But I have to put up with him, because I try not to rock the boat as much as possible. My wife's relationship with her parents is rocky enough as it is. A real-life Cinderella story. We got married in mid-2015, and her parents invited themselves to our place on base housing to come see our new home. Of course, they bring entitled man-child with them. This man-child has already been stuffing his face with what little snack foods we've got in the house. Didn't ask to my recollection because we're family, and families share what they have when family visits. Or some such tripe my mother-in-law said. Not too long after, he starts berating and bullying my at-the-time 10-year-old son. A grown man, harassing a barely double-digit aged child by name-calling. I'm still new to the step-parent / new husband role and don't want to overstep. So I let my wife start to handle this. She asks him to stop as it's upsetting our son. He does for a little bit, but goes right back at it a few minutes later. Once again, my wife asks him to knock it off, and that this behavior won't be tolerated in our home, and he starts having another of his ungodly tantrums. As soon as, well, mom says, comes out of his mouth, I put my foot down, both literally and figuratively. I do not tolerate any disrespect towards my wife. Strangers, kids, or family be damned. The new house is mostly wood flooring on the first floor, and my voice already carries pretty well, so the entire house goes silent when I spoke up. Is this her house? Is this yours? No? Then shut the heck up when people whose house you're in tell you to knock something off. Manchild is just standing there looking like some flabby fish out of water, with an open mouth gasp and wide-eyed terror that someone had dared to correct him. He then ran upstairs and cried to my in-laws about how he was aggressive and scary towards me, and I don't feel welcome in this home. Gee, I wonder why. My father-in-law pulled my wife aside and demanded something be done about my behavior, because that's no way for family to behave towards one another. She told me all this, and to this day, I still don't apologize for anything they seem as rude or unseemly, because that one instance of their 6-foot sack of turds behavior tells me they have no room to criticize anyone on parenting or general behavior. Another reason he may not like me would probably be because I embarrassed the heck out of him for acting like a Nimrod while we were on vacation. For context, we were staying at a hotel her parents had booked with their points, and I was on crutches at the time for a broken foot. This man-child had my, at the time, 8-year-old daughter up in the air spinning her around, standing immediately next to a pool. Obviously, I could not ambulate fast enough to intercede physically, so I had to call out from across the courtyard, "Man-child, put her down now!" which drew everyone in the vicinity's attention to his idiocy. I finally stick my happy butt over him, and he is looking all kinds of indignant. He asks how I dare interrupt his time with his niece, and I tell him, "Because you're putting her life in danger, you colossal moron. You were not even a foot from the side of the pool. What on God's green earth made you think that this was an okay idea?" "Well, I'm her uncle," was all he had to counter with. "And I am her father, and I say put her down." Now, he and I got into a hard staring match at this point, and he thinks he's gonna win because I'm on crutches, and is already naturally taller than me at around 6 foot. I, however, was a hard-charging lance corporal at a time, and didn't fear man, beast, or God, let alone this fat sack excuse of humanity. He broke off and stormed off to go tell his parents what happened. They try to have a conversation with me about how what I did was inappropriate, and I just balk at them and ask them how could they condone the blatant endangerment of their granddaughter by this buffoon. They had nothing else to say. Now for the top comments. Why are you and your wife still in contact with these people? Regrettable obligatory nonsense. I hope you both will see there is no obligation to keep in touch with anyone that disrespects all of you and endangers the kids. Kind of airing my dirty laundry here, but I got out of the military back in August of last year. Due to some unfortunate circumstances that are mine to withhold, we didn't have anywhere to go. So my wife and I are at our respective parents' houses. She with the children whom I miss dearly, until such a time as we are able to pool our funds and reunite as a family unit. We're close now. As of yesterday, my daughter still thanks me for stepping in on that pool incident. I'm surprised you didn't hit him in the face with your crutch. He would definitely, at some point, put your daughter in a dangerous situation and would be inept if anything did happen.